Hello, and welcome to Honest Faith Conversations. As always, I am your co-host, Miguel Covarrubias.
And I am Kathy Covarrubias. And today, let's talk about Get Out.
So, first off, we want to give a great big spoiler alert. If you have not seen the movie, we highly recommend that you do. Even buy it, because this is a fantastic movie. It really brings a lot of good controversial issues to light.
Yep.
And I think it's one of a better outings for writer director first time out there. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously, like we always knew he was creative. Seeing his comedy before, but this is a total swing. When I found out that he was actually going to do a horror movie, I was like, really?
Yeah.
Not too many people can cross, spectrums of genres. Yeah, that drastically. But he did a fantastic job. In fact, I just looked it up. It has a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. And that's like one of the highest I've seen ever. So It's a good movie.
I think Arrival got somewhere around 90. So since we've already talked about that one too. We also want to say we are going to be delving into a few controversial issues in this show. So we want our listeners to be aware that we will be talking about that freely instead of putting it at the end with our controversial issues segment. It's going to be throughout the entire show.
Well, it's kind of hard to talk about the show and not bring up controversial issues.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why we're going to be mixing it in.
Well, and we also want to say that we are both coming from different perspectives. We both come from different walks of life. Where I am a biracial, I am half Chicano, half white American, and so I have a different experience than most people. My skin looks white, and the writer of this movie, as he put it in the comedy series Key and Peele, they're both biracial, and that when you're biracial, that you're not really accepted by either group. That the Mexicans kind of view you as white, and the white people kind of view you as Mexican. So that's my experience. That's kind of where I'm speaking from today. So just to let you know that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah. And me, obviously, I'm coming from the perspective of a liberal white lady. So both of us are going to try our darndest to be as
sensitive.
Yeah, and open-minded. And, the last thing we want to do is offend somebody.
Yeah.
If you know either of us, that is the last thing that we want to do. But that's kind of funny because part of this movie,
that's what this is about.
Yeah, they try to tiptoe around, offending him, but they don't. Honestly, I don't think they try too hard. I mean, they flat out ask him some ridiculous questions. I'm just like,
yeah,
why?
Well, and that's what this entire movie is about, and we'll get to that here in just a second.
Yeah.
So before we get into that, we're going to do a quick review and summary. My review is it's brilliant. It's a brilliant movie, and I kind of would have liked to see the original ending put in there, but I can kind of see where he was coming from by altering the ending and putting the new ending in there for the theatrical release. And I applaud him for this movie. This Jordan Peele's movie is just incredible.
Yep.
And my summary of this movie is very brief. It is Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, but with a horror twist.
I too really, really liked it. It I like scary movies, but I don't like the what are
gore
they? Yeah,
fest.
Yeah, I don't like gore fest stuff. I like stuff that keeps my heart racing, and I'm like, what? No, don't do that, or watch out, don't forget to look around the corner. I'm one of those people that I'm telling the characters in the movies what to do to prevent them from being killed. So this was definitely suspenseful. It was very fast paced too. I wasn't ever bored at any points, which is really, really good. And I will do a longer summary as always. So it is black boyfriend, white girlfriend go to meet her family. Turns out it's not just her family; it's a whole big shindig, and so like all these other strangers come and they start asking him a bunch of like probing, awkward questions, and they touch him and like ask him about his like physical endurance and all kinds of stuff like that, and it's just really awkward and creepy. Turns out they actually want him like for other purposes, not just to meet the boyfriend, and people die.
I like how your summaries are always, and then people die. It's like you get the first 5 minutes of the movie in, and then you have to wrap it up suddenly, and then people die. Shenanigans happen.
And then one thing led to another.
Yada, yada, yada. World War II.
Yep.
So, we have a lot to talk about, and we're not going to even barely touch on everything that this movie hit on, and it's a lot, and it's brilliantly done. And the symbols and allusions to other things and other pop culture icons and things like that are just rampant throughout. This is a fantastic movie. Like I said before in one of our other broadcasts, that I love things that have layers, that have a lot of layers, that you can really take it to mean a lot of different things, because that's what art is.
Yep.
And but this one I want to talk about first off is refocusing. Jordan Peele had said a few times about this movie in interviews afterwards that this was about how, since Barack Obama was elected president, that there was this common idea among liberals and among other people that racism was over now.
Yeah, like we have a black president, check mark. Racism is done.
Yeah, like we took care of it, and that this was scarier than anything else that he's ever encountered. And I would have to agree, and that's kind of where the pendulum kind of swung afterwards. Is we swung back to being open and out about our racism and
I feel
bigotry.
like we swung way further than we were before.
Well, some ways yes, some ways no.
I think people are more open about it now. Like before, like people like hid it, like it was underneath the surface. But now people are just more vocal about their racism than they were before.
Yeah, well, and you, I don't know how many people saw the SNL monologue from, why am I blanking on his name? The guy who does Master of None. He was on Parks and Rec.
Yes, the guy. Oh gosh, I can't remember. I can't remember his name.
Anyway, he in his monologue he said is that, I wish that you would just go back to pretending. You should just go back to pretending. And I think that that's very true. And I listened to something yesterday, and I'll come to that in a second here, but it really focused on the 2016 election and how liberal people were kind of focused on the wrong things. And I think this is where this movie is coming from. It's not just liberals and not just conservatives, that everybody just kind of focused on the wrong things. And especially in the debates, you saw this, that none of the debates really focused on the major issues at hand. Like, there were a little bit about police brutality. There was a little bit about Black Lives Matter. There was a little bit about poverty, but not enough.
No, but it was almost as if they were sprinkled in to, like...
appease the masses.
Exactly. Like, don't worry, we haven't forgot about this, but really we're just going to focus on other matters. Yeah.
I'm going to focus on what's important to me, or important to my party, or my base.
Yep. And I was asked a question the other day, like, if I could, in just a few words, tell the world leaders, like, what I felt about, like, the political situation, the only thing I could come up with was, if you are making decisions solely based on how to better your own life, you're doing it wrong. You need to focus on the little people and the population as a whole.
Yeah. And this came from an idea from William Barber. He was on the New Yorker radio hour yesterday, And he was talking about how Christian churches have kind of lost their focus. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant. It was about 20 minutes, and 20 minutes of your time well spent. Really go and have a listen to that. I did link that on our Facebook page yesterday, on the Honest Faith Facebook page. Spend some time, listen to that. It's incredible. I mean, I was having church with him yesterday. He was.
I know. I walk in and like his eyes were like open wide, and you could tell like there is like energy in the kitchen. Like he's actually like is super excited to listen to this. And I unfortunately came in at the tail end of it, so I was like, okay.
And he really talked about these issues, especially in the light of the 2016 election, about how it hits the church and how somewhere along the lines we got this gospel, according to whoever it was, that it's only good people that go to heaven, that it's by your works that you go to heaven, that and if your works show well, if you do good works, that God will reward you with money. And that you got this health and wealth gospel that really, people are starting to make money off of the backs of other human beings from. You have people like Creflo Dollar. You have people like Jim Bakker, who did it before and I think is trying to do it again.
So many like televangelists come to mind.
And you even have, what's his face on the 300 Club, Pat Robertson, is that his name?
I think so, yeah. I don't know. You were more in that world than I was. I kind of was like, ugh, it's the church channel, and I turned it.
Well, he's now on like TLC or something like that, like very early in the morning. But I mean, this is something that is not what Jesus taught. Jesus never taught anything like that. Jesus said, it's not about works, that the kingdom is here, the kingdom is now, that God loves you here and now. And this is the thing that is evident in the church and the way that the church handles things, especially with the topics of homosexuality, with topics of abortion and stuff like that, that they treat these things as the major issues, that these are the problems, these are the systemic problems, that if we take care of these, everything will fall into place.
And they like pat themselves on the back. They're like, look at us, like how great are we for focusing on this problem?
Well, and this is even a race issue because of poverty. It's because of ethnic minorities are treated in such a way that it's become a systemic issue, that once you're poor, it's almost impossible to become not poor. I mean, I have a lot of sources to back this one up. You have, like Freakonomics Radio has done like many podcasts on this. Yeah,
Stuff Mom Never Told You, which is back on the air, by the way. Hooray! They've done several podcasts about it as well.
It's across the board. And in fact, this was something that even Radiolab did a short segment on. This was on another WNYC podcast out there that, this is the thing about poverty, and especially in these ethnic minority groups, is that they come from poverty, and it's impossible to fight against the system to come out of it.
And the stuff that's put into place in order to help those people like get out of poverty, a lot of those things like welfare, for example, like was not set up to help like the mass poor. It was originally set up to help white widows. And that was it, like white widows, and that was it. And there were so many rules, and there still is so many rules on how you can keep it and how long you can have it. And sometimes, especially nowadays in today's economy, it's so hard. Like the job market, like I know people are applauding that it doesn't seem like there's as many people who are jobless, but those numbers are skewed because they go off of the number of people that are on unemployment. And not everybody who doesn't have a job qualifies for unemployment. In fact, the majority of them don't.
Yeah, we didn't qualify for unemployment while I was unemployed for those 6 months. And
yeah, I know several people, like especially people who worked for nonprofits, don't qualify for unemployment.
Yep. Nonprofits and churches do not pay unemployment tax. And it's primarily because of the tax-exempt status that most churches, I don't want to use the word enjoy, but I'm going to, that most of them enjoy.
Well, I mean, I would say enjoy because, I mean, I'd be happy if I
for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have the. I mean, these are things that are systemic in the church as well. And I mean, this is even those as William Barber put it yesterday, was that to the word conservative means you're conserving something, and what you're conserving is not the gospel. And that was brilliant. I think that phrase alone was worth that half hour I listened to him. And but what's funny is that before he came on the radio, I was listening to something else there where it was talking about economists, and how economists all agree that raising the minimum wage, yes, would help the economy, because then people who have disposable income are going to spend it. When people spend money, that's how the economy gets boosted.
Yep, because the more money you spend, that's more money you're filtering back into the jobs who now are being able to pay more. And so it really does help boost it. Yeah.
And so anyway, that's going up way off track on this, but we're going, I mean, because we can go on and on about this topic forever, and so we got to keep on focus on this one. But
sorry.
In our own experience, and this especially because of the movie, is I have experienced myself, fighting against, some of these systems and the refocusing of things. In fact, when we first started dating, and Kathy would tell people that I was Mexican, that I was half Mexican. Most people in their minds brought up the stereotype that would more fit my father than it would fit me.
Yeah, in fact, like not even your father. Like for example, a family member. I'm not going to say who because I don't even want to like narrow down like where in the branch they lie. But somebody in my family, once I had made mention about you, talked about you, that kind of stuff, they saw pictures of you on Facebook, and immediately they were like, oh, wow, I was really surprised. Like, I thought that he was going to be really, really short, have darker skin. I was like, what? Did you think that he was going to, like, walk in with a sombrero? Like, seriously.
I was going to show up on my burro.
Apparently, I don't know. Like, but I don't know. I forget that, like, not everybody, like, sees the world the way I do. And so, like, when people have that kind of, like, ideas about stereotypes in their mind, like, it really makes me mad. I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing is that, I mean, even in this movie when he was at the party, I didn't chalk it up fully to suspicion, because people kind of are that way with almost anybody of a different race than they are.
Yeah, how many people ask you, like, I'm pretty sure somebody in my family asked you when they first met you, like, do you speak Spanish? Like,
yeah,
automatically...
almost everybody asked me, do you speak Spanish? I'm like, I did. I do a little bit, but, I can't write it. I can't have a solid conversation, a deep conversation with anybody in Spanish because... I've lost it. I don't practice it in America.
No, you have enough to like get by if you were like in a Spanish speaking town.
Yeah. And I mean, this whole thing, it's part of a much larger system. And I mean, this is part of that hidden racism thing, is that you have these systems that are in place especially for us Chicanos and Latinos and Hispanic people, that if we have a name that is different than the norm, like for instance with my name Miguel, with applying to jobs, with sending my resume out there and it not saying something like Michael, people are going to treat that resume a lot differently than they would with a name Michael on it, with a white name, with a traditionally white name.
Yeah. And there's been studies about that too. So you can find them anywhere where people will send in the exact same resume, just a different name. And the one with typically the white sounding name or the male will get the job over the minority or the female.
Yeah. I sent out my resume during my transition to maybe about 400 different jobs.
Yeah.
And I got 4 interviews. So it shows that, this, I don't know if it's because of the system, but because, I mean, that's something that's my experience. I mean, even in the churches that I've worked for, I have worked for churches that have said, oh yeah, we're open, we're affirming, we're loving of all different people. But when somebody that is different shows up to church, they are treated much differently than any normal regular visitor
Yep.
would. I mean, this is almost akin to the, I've never liked this, the having a visitor stand up in the middle of church to welcome the visitors so that all eyes are on them. It's kind of like that. And I worked in these places where, I mean, they were like, oh yeah, we've had a black priest before, or we've had a black pastor before, so we're not racist. And really, they are. They treat you, they like, you're, they picked you up from the side of the road or picked you up in front of Home Depot to come and work in their church for a day or something.
It kind of makes me wonder, like, obviously not all churches, like, that you've worked for, because
no.
He's worked for, great churches, but, it almost makes me wonder about how some of them, I wonder if they chose you specifically to, like, show their diversity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, in that's troubling.
So what about your experience?
Well, growing up in Montana, like, I guess one of the benefits to growing up there is there wasn't, like, a hard line between this is where the white schools are and this is where the black schools are. Because even now, like, you can, like, there's been studies done that, there's black neighborhoods still and there's white neighborhoods. And, it's just because that's where, people are comfortable to be. And then there's also gentrification, but that's a whole other issue. But anyway, in Montana, that's almost impossible because there's so many few, minorities. I mean, we do have minorities, obviously. Like, we have a lot of Native American reservations, so we do have a lot of tribes up there. So I went to school with a lot of Native American kids. I went to school with some Latinos, not many. And then there was, like, a handful of black kids. And that was pretty much it. But I don't ever remember them being, like, by themselves, like, being shunned. If anything, I think it was the other way around. I think it was, like, the kids would treat them as the token black kid. Like, yeah. Like, come and join our table so then we can look like we're cool because we're accepting you. So, I mean, that's completely, like, my Montana view of things. Like, I've never...
Although I think that things probably are changing now because of the North Dakota oil boom.
Yeah.
And especially as it's winding down, that people are going to start spreading a little bit more.
I think so.
So I think Montana's going to have an influx of population here pretty soon. But
it's so expensive to live there.
Oh, I know.
It's so expensive. But I almost kind of consider myself lucky because even though I grew up not necessarily experiencing a lot of minorities, like, around me, I don't think I came out of it, like, thinking of them negatively. In fact, I remember we had a middle school class. Did I tell you about that? So we had a substitute in middle school, and I remember him saying, well, people here, he was, like, from California, and he's like, well, people from Montana are just naturally racist because they don't come in contact with minorities very often. And, like, my class exploded. Like, we're like, how dare you tell us that? Like, how dare you tell me that I automatically, like, hate everybody who's not white just because I don't, like, come in contact with them every day. Like, it's not the kids' fault that they don't live in a more culturally diverse area. So I don't know. That's just my experience as a white lady.
Yeah, and we've, this is something that I think is the reason why Jordan Peele changed the ending there was because, as he said, was that these issues are now coming to light, that it's no longer something that's swept under the rug. Like the Black Lives Matter movement, and because of what happened with Trayvon Martin and with, even here in Cleveland with the police shooting, and with all of these things that kind of, really brought these issues to light. And especially what I find funny is that he brought up systemic issues that, are racism issues in one of the most well, as the country views it, as one of the country's most viewed areas as liberal, is Hollywood.
Yeah.
And in Hollywood, you know that there are these systemic issues. I mean, there is that whitewashing that is quite rampant in Hollywood.
Yes, and I love that people are calling him out on it now, like, especially with...
Oh, the gods of Egypt?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yep. Well, and the one with she was supposed to be Hawaiian,
Oh, yeah.
but she was like she clearly is not Hawaiian.
Emma Stone.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So there's that too. But I do think that
and Scarlett Johansson in the movie that came out at the same time as Get Out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I really love how, at least now there's a little bit of they're slowly trying, but it's almost as if they're like going too slow. Like, Hollywood needs to be proven that, you don't have to whitewash something in order to make money. In fact, Gods of Egypt did not do very well in the box office.
Well, it was also a bad movie, from what I hear. So.
Too. But, well, with this movie, for example, like being written and directed,
it really comes out where Jordan Peele kind of went against the norm.
Yeah,
was that it was a horror movie, and as you know, the stereotype for horror movies is the black guy is usually the first one to die. Mm-hmm. And in this movie, he kind of turns it around that the first person to die on screen is the brother with the weird, creepy facial hair. I'm sorry, but that scared me more than anything else.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, sorry, but if you have...
Well, he didn't really die, but that's besides the point.
yeah, because he comes... You're spoiling it! Sorry,
the patriarch is really the first one to die, but...
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, facial hair, I'm very happy for those people who come out to tell somebody, hey, you shouldn't rock that facial hair. Yeah. Clearly nobody told him that.
I'm sorry, but Banshee looked better as Banshee rather than this character. I mean, these are things in there that, you had the protagonist, you had the hero, all that were black characters, and they weren't in the traditional, blaxploitation kind of efforts where it was all about that. No, it wasn't about the race thing mostly at all. It was mostly about this story, and the story that comes from the archetype of guess who's coming to dinner, and
but that has to do with race. It is about race.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing, is that it's taking that archetype and turning it on its head a little bit. Yeah. Is giving that twist, that horror twist to it, which was brilliant, I thought. Mm-hmm. And this is something that Hollywood has obviously tried to do, and their efforts don't really go unnoticed. But it's also it's a weird noticing of it. Like, for instance, last year you had the problem with the Oscar So White thing that was going on. Then this year you had people who were forgetting the names of movies like Hidden Figures and Fences.
Yes, and then it'd be like Hidden Fences.
Fences.
Over and over again at the freaking award show. Like, you're reading it off of a card and you couldn't get it right.
Yeah, and then the best motion picture almost went to the white people movie about jazz, whereas jazz is a traditionally black music. Mm-hmm. And so that is, something that... Moonlight obviously, won the award, but that whole thing, I think, was just a fiasco. This whole effort to kind of come back from where they were last year was a bad effort, I think.
Yeah.
This shows that coming back from those systems it's going to be hard. That these systems are not easily come back. You don't easily come back from those systems. Mm-hmm. You have that whole cultural appropriation thing, and you have that here in the movie as well. And I thought that's what was going on with the questions they were asking him was like, oh yeah, black is in fashion now. And this is the same thing with like Mexican culture with people and tacos. It's like, oh yeah, I like tacos. I'm like, why are you telling me you like tacos? I don't make tacos. Tacos aren't traditionally a Mexican thing.
No, they're not.
And so that, that's one of those things, like cultural appropriation things. And like, oh, I love Chipotle.
Or those, oh my gosh. Or like in the 90s with the white ladies with the braids.
Oh yeah. And I mean this shows, even in that one movie that we talked about with Gods of Egypt, that's cultural appropriation, is making it, about more white people. And so, this is something that is systemic, that's across the board. And even in churches, this happens. You have, oh, Lordy, it's even hard to talk about. You have these gospel spirituals, and we did use one for our show today, but you have them that, oh, let's do this during Black History Month because this is the only time when we really should celebrate this. And it's like, no. These are spirituals that, these meant stuff to people. It meant more than just the words that are on the page. It meant more than the music that was. And I got to tell you, music, especially in the church with cultural appropriation, it's awful. That's why I very much dislike church music. It's, as C.S. Lewis once put it, it's incredibly cloying. That it's kind of like a chocolate bar dipped in sugar. It's way too sweet.
And I think that's, the beauty about a lot of spirituals too, is that they're not all that sweet. Like you can feel that there's a big tragedy behind them because a lot of them were actually written while they were still in slavery. So you can tell that it meant more than just, I'm going to write this song and play it in church.
Yep. And then you have this thing where, and this I think also has to do with Hidden Figures as well, and with not just that, but Moonlight and Fences and all these other things that have come out this year. Luke Cage, and that, well, not really Luke Cage, because Luke Cage isn't really history. Well, it's sort of history, but
comic book history.
Comic book history is that history is written by the victors, and I can't remember who said that, but it's that. Especially, these are things that you don't learn about in school. You learn about the Americans landing on the moon, but you don't learn about the woman who put them there. Yeah. You don't learn about her because she did all the math for it, because people like John Glenn didn't trust the computer to do the math correctly.
Yeah, yeah.
You had this woman who, because of her cervical cancer, because of her tumor that was irregular than any other thing that anybody else had noticed before, that because of her tumor, that it became something that people were able to use to develop vaccines, to not just develop a certain vaccine, but the polio vaccine of all things.
Yeah, unfortunately that was stolen from her, and it's still actually being used in labs today, and that's another controversial topic that I don't know, we may.
That came up on the Radio Lab this week, so go and listen to that as well. That is, an incredible story as well. I had a driveway moment with NPR. I felt very hipster as I'm sitting out in my driveway listening to the story about tumor. So, this is something that I think our history. It's not just. Them, but there are so many things in our history books that get left out because of who did it, because of these advancements of who did it and when they did it.
Or they gloss over the importance of it. Like they just focus on the poster child of that event versus...
Like George Washington Carver. Like every kid has to do a report on during Black History Month in elementary school. Instead of, people like... that woman who put us on the moon. People who like that woman who just had an irregular tumor. And, that's, these things that, advancements in our society that are swept under the rug that, I can't even remember their names because it's not that prevalent. And in fact, the woman that Rosa Parks was, modeled after.
Yeah, no, essentially they were like, hey, Rosa, this teen did this, like, this teen refused to move. We think you should do that too. And so she was like, okay. So it wasn't like a spare of the moment, like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and do this because I think it's a good idea. Like, that idea was put into her head.
Yeah.
I mean, she was a great figure, obviously. Like, I'm not trying to downplay that at all, but I am going to try to downplay the fact that she wasn't the first. She did not come up with this idea.
And I mean, even Latinos and Chicanos, we're swept under the rugs, with our advancements, with our, our things that are given to culture. I mean, even San Antonio's mayor, he's been doing some great things in San Antonio, and with doing like those things, we're just kind of like left out. Because we're not part of the traditional white culture that America has been.
I think growing up, the only I learned a little bit about the
you hear mostly about the
Texas.
villains.
Yeah, and
you hear about Pancho Villa. You hear about I can't remember his name. Yellow Rose of Texas. I can't remember.
That's okay. It's okay. We're not a history podcast.
Yeah, we're not a history podcast. So.
But I think the only other thing I can remember that was even semi-close to learning about any kind of, like, Latino history was the Zoot Suit riots. I learned there was, like, a paragraph about the Zoot Suit riots in my history book, and that was it.
Well, when we held signs up for our own rights, when we were, there, with La Raza, with that call that, we were united, that we were the family, that, even if we came from different countries, if we were from different Latino backgrounds, that we are still Latino, that we are this family, that we should have rights too. And I mean, this is something that has been systemic in our culture. And I think this is where we should talk about where to go from here. And especially in the church, is we see this is that not even in the church do we acknowledge these things. And especially with like pictures of Jesus, like still in most churches, that if you have a picture of Jesus that's been painted, an artwork of Jesus, a depiction of Jesus or of God, it's most often white.
Yep.
That,
with like the really long, like flowy salon hair.
Yeah.
And he's usually like looking up and like with his hands folded praying.
Peacefully holding a lamb.
Yeah.
He's not even Middle Eastern. He's some like white, maybe from Norwegian model. He looks more like Fabio than anything else. And so, it's a systemic issue that I think that, I'm not saying that we should go like full, like change all of them to the historically accurate Jesus.
Well, no, because art history is still art history. Like we can't change that fact. However, we can change things moving forward.
Yeah, exactly.
For example, like when they came out with the more historically accurate, like this is probably what Jesus looked like, not this. People freaked out. And like this, to me, this was no surprise. Like I was like, I always knew that he would look more Middle. Yeah, he was, from the Middle East, so he would probably look Middle Eastern. Like people didn't travel very much then, so the likelihood of him looking anything else was very minute. So this wasn't a big surprise to me, but I'm always floored about how upset people get. I'm like, we're trying to make it more historically accurate for you, and you're getting mad because we're correcting something because chances are it's more accurate than what you have right now. Anyway, I could go on and on about that.
Well, yeah, that and Moses and Noah and I mean
Mary with her blonde hair and blue eyes.
Oh, I know. And with the Koresh scenes in almost any church in Advent, you have Mary and Joseph who are white, and this is just something that I think as churches, not that we need to be sensitive to, but that churches need to acknowledge the fact that we've never really done this before. We've never really been open to differences before. That yes, that they may be scared, that they may be frightened because something's changing, but at least acknowledge it. Say that I am frightened that something's changing, and can you help me figure out how to do this in a better way? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the way that the church really should move forward with these things, especially just laying it down there, being honest, being open about where they're at, instead of trying to wipe over glossy over the bad parts. Is don't gloss over it. Acknowledge your humanity as well. I think this has to do with all of human culture, is that we need to stop glossing over our problems with each other. We do need to have it out there in the open. And that's one of the good things about this pendulum swinging, is that I think that for us as human culture, I think it's better for us to have it out there in the open, to be able to talk about it, to say, I am afraid, or and like the guy in Portland 2 weeks ago or last week, that who was like shouting down these Muslim ladies and the people who stood up for them, is that he's been out about that for a long time, and somebody should have had a conversation with him and said, "Hey, look, what is your problem? Let's sit down. Let's have a conversation."
Yeah, there had to have been, I don't know if there was like an inciting incident, or he just feels bad for himself. That's honestly, like, when I encounter racism like that, I feel like they're feeling bad for themselves, because they feel like as though they're going to be marginalized because other people are finally getting a little bit closer to the being equal. I mean, we're not close at all, but it just scares them that people are going to have better lives, which doesn't make that doesn't make any sense.
So obviously we barely touched on a very big topic. And so with that being said, we are going to invite you now to become a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And really, please, if you want us to talk more about this, please give us some feedback. Let us know what you think, and let us know your opinions as well. Because we are running out of time. So I need to give these things to you really quickly so that we can move on. Give us a call. Leave us a voicemail at 720-372-387. I think that's a 9.
I don't know. You wrote it down.
Oh, I know. I did write it down, but I wrote it down sloppily. 9. It is a 9. So it's 720-372-3879. Find us also on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Tumblr, on almost every social media. We're out there with just honest faith, pretty much, real honest faith on Twitter and on Facebook. And also, you can subscribe to us on most of your favorite podcast apps.
Yes,
we're on Castbox, Spreaker.
Yeah, subscribe, and please share us, because if you feel like this was a good conversation and you want to share it with your friends, please do so. We would really appreciate it. And if you have a comment about the this podcast, give us an email. Tell us your story. Write something in the comments. Message us on Facebook too. We're totally open.
Oh, and the website is thehonestfaith.com. And so with all that being said, we invite you to come and join the conversation.
Bye now.